Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank you all so much for watching. Again, shout out The Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guests.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Hi, I'm Jen, and we are Camp Crush.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Excited.
Yeah, let's go in the same order. Why don't you tell us each a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, like I said, my name's Chris. I play the drums in Camp Crush, some background vocals, 50% of the band.
Yeah. Two of us.
It's not a large band by any means. But we write music together, so I kind of hold a little bit of that ground in the band as well. But mostly it's just kind of like a big shared, amazing musical project that we love to do together. I
love that. Yeah, I'm Jen, and I am sort of the main songwriter, and I play keys a lot. I'm kind of like a vintage synth enthusiast, and I'm the singer as well. And we've been in Portland for a long time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm not a native Portlander. I grew up in Alaska.
Oh, cool.
But we've been in Portland long enough, maybe we can say finally that we're from Portland.
We've been doing a lot of music in the city for quite a while.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Are you from Alaska as well?
I'm not. No, I grew up in Oregon City, so just south.
Okay, so you are from the...
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I moved into Portland when I got a little bit older. But yeah, now I enjoy city life.
Fair enough. And what got you each started into music initially?
For me, I grew up with 4 older brothers, and they were a lot older than me. So they all had cars, and it was the 80s. And, we were driving around listening to like Anthrax and AC/DC. And just, I grew up with a lot of hair metal.
Which is exactly what our music sounds like today.
That was exactly what I was thinking. I was like, how on the nose.
But my mom also was a piano teacher. And so we always had a piano in the house. And I knew I was a singer from the age of 4. And so I was just singing up in front of church, singing Jesus Loves Me and doing a spin, which I got in trouble for later. They were like, no dancing, no dancing. So, music has sort of always been just like another language for me growing up. So yeah, it's been sort of a lifelong thing that I just can't quit.
Yeah. And for me, similar in some ways, when I was in 5th grade, my parents for Christmas got me music lessons to our local music shop. A local music shop actually in Oregon City at the time called Adrian Music that there are still a lot of people in the Portland music industry today that came out of that shop.
Oh, that's cool.
Either through taking lessons or later teaching lessons. But some of my good friends still today I knew back when I was 5th and 6th grade from that shop, which is really cool. So I started learning the drums and then just took that into jazz band and pep band and every sort of band opportunity that I could, be a part of to just get to do this thing that was really awesome that I love doing. So
school drumming experience, so you could keep it out of the house, it sounds like.
Yeah. Not always easy to play a full kit at home.
No, but at least your parents were willing to do it.
Yeah, maybe they're understanding. The neighbors, not so much.
Oh, that makes sense. And now, were they musical at all growing up?
Yeah, my dad played tuba when he was younger, and that was kind of his musical experience. I'm not sure exactly what led him to push me and my sibling into doing music at a younger age, but they just felt it was really important for us, and really happy they did.
Yeah.
And I
think that.
Took little breaks along the way, when I was learning, but always came back to it. And I always really just wanted to do something more aligned with what I was listening to, and not just like the school type stuff, the jazz band and the pep band, but more of the rock and roll stuff.
Gotcha. And you've just been mainly drums the whole time.
Drums the whole time. I know I pick up a guitar here and there, but nothing that I'll ever show anybody in public.
Fair enough.
But yeah, just drums. It's been fun to. There's always opportunities to jump in and play drums with somebody, because drummers are not always in abundance. So
that's very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. So I haven't had to pick up a whole lot of other instruments. There's always been opportunities to do the drum thing.
And then I know you said you kind of grew up with piano around.
Yeah.
When did you make more of the transition to synthesizer?
Yeah, that's a great question. We met, 14 years ago. And I was hiring a drummer for the project I was in at the time. And anyway, and so since we've known each other, we've had a lot of different iterations of us making music together. We had a folk trio.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there's any evidence of it on the internet.
Scrub that.
Try to scrub it.
Well, we actually happen to have.
Yeah, right.
And so I was playing definitely more Rhodesy. And then I upgraded my keyboard to the Nord Stage 2, which is sort of a powerhouse, just like workhorse.
Oh, yeah.
And it can just do everything. And I started playing with the synth engines and just really fell in love with what you can actually do when you get into the analog side of it. And so that kind of kick-started me off on a road, and that sort of, in a way, ended that band, because I was like, synth doesn't really belong in a folk trio. And so then we sort of moved on into making this kind of music.
It was the gateway drug.
The gateway drug.
Oh, man, trust me, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm outside of bass, I primarily do talkbox. And
Oh, cool.
Once you find that can plug into a synthesizer, there's really no going back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot of cool sounds.
Very much so.
Yeah.
All right, now before we get into more of what y'all do in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on.
Cool.
Love it.
And this first one's one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you each bought with your own money?
Let's see. I think mine was TLC Crazy Sexy Cool.
Okay.
Classic.
Yeah, quality.
It's just important.
I kind of wish I had a better answer, but maybe it's actually a great answer. I bought this soundtrack on cassette, the soundtrack to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
Whoa.
Which was that was the one where they go to the samurai.
Yeah, they go back in time.
Yeah, they go back in time, but also on the other side of the planet too. And they're like samurai. Yeah. But that had Tarzan Boy on the soundtrack, which is a really weird, one-hit wonder. I'm not sure. I just loved Turtles so much. Like from a young age, I used to have birthday cakes that were turtle themed. So when I had enough money,
Turtles in general, or
the
Turtles of the ninja variety, yes.
Just mutated turtles, just only
specifically.
Yeah.
They have to wear a mask a little bit so nobody knows who they are.
Between the ages of 13 and 19, mutated horribly, sewer ooze. But cassette soundtrack for TMNT3.
That's pretty rad. And
great.
Only the second time ever on the show somebody has said something Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle related for that answer. Weirdly enough, not the first one.
Wow.
Yeah, the first one I think was the live performance soundtrack. Because apparently there was a touring band that was the it was the actual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So
Oh.
Yeah. You have
I know what
a whole new avenue to go down. Yeah. I'm leaving that here for you. You can check it out later. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. But then getting back to it, what was one of the first live shows you each went to that was specifically one you wanted to go to? So you saw it was happening, got tickets, went to it.
I think for me, because Alaska, as you may have guessed, there's not a ton of shows coming through town. So mine was in college, and the band All for One.
Okay.
A little 4-part harmony came through Boise, where I was at the time, and it was pretty great.
That's awesome.
when I was in high school, when I really started discovering the type of music that I personally liked, and not just concerts, maybe I'd go with my parents, I started getting into like the Portland all ages music scene a little bit, which thankfully is having a resurgence, but has been dead for a little bit. For the past 15, 20 years, there hasn't been a whole lot happening in the all ages scene, but there's, places like Friends of Noise that are doing amazing things with that. But there used to be a venue called the Meow Meow in Southeast Portland, which, near Andy and Bax and Next Adventure, like down in like the Southeast area. There was like an all ages venue all the time. And I got like hired. I volunteered to be a high school representative for Oregon City High School, where I got to go to as many shows as I wanted for free. I got like a free pass to the Meow Meow. I just had to pass out like music samplers, CDs at school. And it was, all local music at the time. So people, maybe they were listening to boy bands or whatever at the time. But some people were interested in the local music scene. Yeah. And I was beyond stoked because I got to go to shows that I wanted to anytime for free. And so that's not like a straightforward answer, I guess, not one show, but I used to go to a bunch of shows. I just, try to even remember one in particular. I don't know, just like a series of shows at the Meow Meow. It felt like a specific moment in time.
Yeah, I guess when you're going that regularly, not that they all like blend together, but they all kind of blend together at a certain point, I imagine.
Yeah, oh, definitely, because it was a lot, and
it's a lifestyle.
Yes.
Who knows even? I would tell you, and it probably would be like, picking bands from different shows and saying it was one night. But
yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. And actually, I have a follow-up one. I've never asked this before, but I'm curious, what was the first show you two went together? Went to together. Sorry, I knew there's a word missing.
Well, because we started playing music together from the minute we met, and pretty shortly after that, we started an open mic that we hosted every week. We would go to a lot of local shows of the people that were coming to our open mic. But I think maybe like one of the first shows that we went to together that was just super impactful for us was this band Black Prairie. And I think they put out it was like a one record and done kind of moment.
At the Doug Fir.
At the Doug Fir. And we loved the record. And so we went to the show. But the opener was a trio. They're friends of ours now, actually. Shout out to Swansea. But at the time, we were still kind of doing the folk thing. But she was up there playing a lot, multiple synths. He was drumming, and then they had a bass player. And it was sort of a moment for me that we kind of were like, maybe we can kind of like do the music we're like excited about, It
did feel like a bridge moment, kind of, because we talked about doing the folk music before. And then we saw this band doing like opening for a folk band. And we're like, whoa, what can we do?
That's exciting.
And I'm so glad that we, are friends with them now, but we had to kind of get past our like fangirling a little bit.
They're like, enough.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't get it. Sorry.
I understand. Well, thank you guys for sharing. Like I said, it's the first time I've ever asked that question.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and remember that, bake that in for later.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. And then how'd you all meet initially?
Well, that's a little bit of Camp Crush lore.
If you go way far back.
Because again, we met because I initially as adults, because I was hiring a drummer. I had like a little solo project, and you auditioned, and I was like, gotta lock it down. You're that good. But then, when you sort of meet somebody, and we're married, we've been married now like 11 years. And
you must be a really good drummer.
That's what I meant. You got to lock it down. Seriously, all the way.
Every year I audition. I audition still to see if I'm.
Can I still be the drummer in the band? But when you meet somebody and you kind of do the thing where you start, oh well, okay, where did you grow up? And you sort of talk about like maybe places that you've been that are similar. We sort of did this work back, and we realized that as children, we went to the same sleepaway summer camp as
Whoa.
And it was like old school summer camp. So Chris was like, hey, hold on, did you do the talent show at the end of the camp? And I was like, of course I did the talent show, because I was probably singing a TLC song. And he's like, oh my God, you're blonde Jenny. I had the biggest camp crush on you. And that is how we named the band.
Too cute to
it's
be
way
true.
too cute, but
that camp was like super crazy problematic too, because all of the girls stayed in teepees.
Not great.
And the boys stayed in covered wagons.
Not.
It is so crazy that happened. I'm just thinking back right now. Nevertheless, that was a long time ago. And yeah, we brought some positive lore out of that moment.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that is a wild series of events, and coincidentally answers the next question, which was how'd you pick the name? So
yeah, that's where the name.
That is a cool
connection. It's a twofer.
Yeah, well, that is really interesting. Thank you guys for sharing that.
It felt faithful when we landed on that because I think we even had like a yellow legal pad that was like 3 pages deep where we wrote all of the possible band names that we could have. I wish we still had that. I don't think we still have those pages.
I do remember there was one final runner-up that was like Camp Crush Or, and the other one was Super Deep V's, and we meant like T-shirts.
Yep. I see where you're going with that one.
That could possibly mean. Yeah.
And a friend of ours who actually also has a podcast in town, he was like, he put me aside and he's like, you can't name your band that.
And you're like, what?
No, you're right.
But yeah, once we found Camp Crush, we started, we're like, oh, now we have to make the Instagram account. We have to do all these things. Like, thankfully, none of it was taken.
Yeah, we had it. So
I was in the same boat with Jimmy's Jambox.
Oh yeah,
I was like, this alliteration makes too much sense. It's for sure not going to get the email, not going to get the Instagram, not going to get the everything. Everything is there. Yeah,
it's meant to be.
And I am curious. Do you remember any of the other names that didn't work out?
Oh man.
I'm one of those people that'll always have like a running list of super punny band names like in my phone deep somewhere. I tried to like sell them to people, but nobody's.
Yeah, I mean, you've got generators for that now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to get back.
We've had some pretty bad band names in the past, though. Just like in some of our previous iterations, but the worst one I think was Freedom Things.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad.
It only lasted like
I can't believe
3 months.
Said that out loud.
Which we also have the music.
No recorded material, thankfully. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for going through all of that. Now let's get into your writing process a little bit. And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning.
Okay.
So when you guys get inspired, you're ready to make music. What are some of the things you do to put a track together?
You buy a new synth.
We are friends already.
I'm just, I think new sounds really are very inspiring. And so like we're in the process right now putting out a record, but we're also writing the next record. And so like we got a new synth to inspire the sounds, but not for every song. But I think usually what happens is I will go to the piano or the guitar and just kind of lay down the skeleton of a song, write kind of the, verses, maybe like at least a verse 1 and a chorus and maybe like a hook, one hook. And then I'll take it to Chris and I'll play it for him. And then, Chris will then really kind of sits a lot of the time in a producer seat in that, where he gives feedback. Oh, what if we tried it in this tempo, or what if we tried it in this time signature? What if we, this is really reminding me of a blah, blah, blah song. And what if we kind of tried a beat like that? And so then you'll start adding in different beats and different things. And then the song just sort of morphs from there.
Right. And it might be, moments of transition or instrumentation, or adding a bridge or a tag or something, and then kind of that second iteration, then we start playing through, then like that will give Jen more ideas. And so at that point, it's kind of like a ping pong back and forth.
Gotcha.
As we each put our own flavor on the thing that we bring to the writing.
You also jump in on the lyrics too. So, once I have sort of something down, you might jump in and help, kind of hone lyrics or write a verse, or like in our last, the record we're just putting out right now, one of the songs, we had recorded it and ended up changing producers midway through. So had recorded with one producer and finished the record with another producer, which was a very interesting process. And I love him. And the person who finished the record, George came to me and said, I love the song that we're working on so much, but I hate the second verse. Like, I need you to rewrite it.
Whoa.
And I was like, because we kind of did a different thing with the melody. And he was like, I just think people need a consistent melody to really...
Yeah, lock in. Yeah,
exactly. And people want to sing along. People want to learn it. I just feel like this is too overcomplicated. Can you rewrite it? And so that's where like we both just sort of got in the headphones and tried to come up with a lot of different versions of what it could look like. And then we sent them to George, and George kind of gave feedback. And so it can look different.
Yeah.
Or, you know, so all hands on deck.
I guess the song itself is never just like a 4-minute hard one piece of material. It's something that we are just floating through, kind of building as we go until you get to a place where you say, this is finished at the end of the production process, even after recording. So
yeah,
I think sometimes people will be like, I wrote a song and it's done. But I feel like until you send it off to, distribution.
Yeah.
It's not done until that moment. Mostly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like y'all are pretty solid on your process, at least.
It's
very
worked well for us.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to like performing live, now, I've unfortunately not had the joy of seeing y'all yet, but when it comes to live, are you doing like you taking the Chromie approach where it's like actual synths on stage and there's like a computer running them, or like are you just like sequencing everything standalone, or doing backing tracks? I mean, obviously you have a real drummer, so you have a lot more room to play with things.
Totally.
But how do you go about like the live performance?
That's a great question. It's like 4 synths on stage, so that I'm playing live, and just the combination of synths is just differs per song. So it's usually at least 2 synths for every song, sometimes a third, so you just have to, just depending on what the needs are. We do run a few backing tracks, but those are mostly just like, especially for our recorded tracks, like the special sauce, like the little like sizzle, or maybe a little bit. If I have a choral background vocal moment, we obviously, there's only 2 of us, we can't recreate that. And so we'll bring those things in so that people can have a little bit of the experience of what the record sounds like live. But I will say, because we actually, the way we position on stage, Chris is right up front with me. So we face each other. We're kind of like this, like I'm here, he's there. And so the drums are super, super present and people get to watch a drummer, like a really amazing drummer, do their thing. So I think that's a really like a different thing than you usually get to have at a show. And the drums come through, I think, a little bit more heavily in our live performances.
Yeah, we've done some MIDI clock sequencing in the past, but mostly we're just playing totally live with just a couple little, track situations. But
you're definitely have the tempo in though. Because
I was gonna say, definitely got the in-ear system going strong.
If you're playing with tracks, you got to have something.
I mean, nowadays it's so much more accessible. Like back in the day, an in-ear system was like unheard of taboo technology. Right. Now it's just like, it just makes sense. Yeah.
And I think like we have so many, arpeggiators that are happening that just don't work if you're not locked into a tempo. And so for us, like that's the thing we need to have the tempo system running. Yeah. And then if the tracks don't work, we're fine. Everything else is fine.
I mean, at a certain point, if do you have a way to like mute the backing tracks if something really goes off the rails? Yeah. Okay, then I mean, worst comes to worst, you just don't have those there, and you're just playing the way you're playing. So I dig that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that happens from time to time.
Happened.
Oh, I used to be in an electronic funk rock band.
Oh, amazing.
And unfortunately, we didn't have a drummer. So we were really locked in, and multiple people, because there was 4 of us.
Oh, wow.
And multiple people started songs on first. Okay. So we had to rig this crazy foot system so that each person could hit start on the things that were backing, and we had lights that were rigged to the backing system.
Amazing.
Cool,
so that all our floor stage lighting was programmed to the show.
Right.
So it was you had to be tight. We practiced every week.
Did your sound engineers love you when you came in with that system?
Actually, yes, because we're really getting into the weeds on this one. So I ran, I played bass, I did talkbox, and I ran the drums and backing tracks as well as the lighting rig.
Nice.
And I had in my rack, I had something that could do up to 24 outs, but I had 8 outs, and then I had a summed version that was just 2 outs that I could control with a physical mixer pre-going to them.
Nice.
So I was actually able to be like, hey, if you want to mix all of the sounds, here's this many XLRs, and if you don't want to mix all the sounds, here's 2, and I will just run my sound my sound check file that I have for all the sounds, so I can dial it in for the room.
Nice.
Yeah. But when you open up that 4-space rack, it was a nightmare on the inside. Let me tell you, they don't make cables short enough for that nonsense.
No.
And it was, I had to have a schematic.
Oh, yeah.
If something went wrong, I was like, all right, I got to get in there. Yeah. But that's enough about me. Sticking into the live realm for a second, before you go on stage, do you guys have any like rituals or fun like pre-show things you do?
I think we give each other pep talks, which I think is always good. It's mostly just like, center yourself, be like, we've done this many times before. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have a good time. People like us, like just a thing you'd say before you'd go give a presentation or a speech in high school or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes Jen likes to do power pose.
Power pose is everything.
Yeah.
That's
like
everything.
Starfish.
Yeah.
Stretch your limbs as far as they go, take up as much space as possible.
Yeah.
Just kind of like explore the limits of your...
But there's no like
space.
my space. No, but there's no like chant we're doing before.
No, gotcha. Almost famous. We're not like backstage in a huddle. Maybe someday we'll come up with something cool. Maybe we'll be cooler than we are today. Someday.
It's nice to think that we haven't peaked.
Yeah, hey, there's
room to grow.
Room to grow. Like the power pose of life.
Yeah. Wow.
And actually, would you mind moving your mic a little closer to you? It drifted away while we were talking, and now it's all the way in the camera there.
How's that?
Yeah, that is perfect. Sorry to interrupt that, everybody. I don't cut these things out. All right, and then as far as writing goes, we're moving back to that for a minute. Do y'all have like a certain sound you lean towards? Is there like something usually cooking up in here when you like get started on things, or do you really just kind of let the winds take you wherever?
It's a good question. I oftentimes start with lyrics. I think I need like a little bit of a lyrical idea before I can understand where I'm going with the song. So, like a practice that I do a lot is sort of looking back. Like I write about our lives. I write about our experiences. Like, I'm not writing about abstract things most of the time. And so like we wrote this song Gymnasiums that's out. And that song is just literally about a memory of me being in my high school gym as a junior in high school and just sitting on the bleachers and just the way I just tried to like hone in on that girl in that moment and all of her feelings and everything that she was going through and balancing at the time. And that song turned out to just like absolutely sound like a soundtrack piece from a John Hughes film, at which I was like, nailed it, exactly what I was looking for. But sort of the lyrics led me there, to really kind of bringing in that real like stringy, like analog stringy sound synth that created the lead, that sort of created where like the soundscape that we went to.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that's been amazing about Camp Crush for both of us is that we decided that we wanted to make music without the, I guess we try to give each other creative constraints because sometimes you can create amazing things with creative constraints. Yeah. But for Camp Crush, we tried to say, make music that we are interested in, that is just based off of our inspirations, but almost not thinking about that, but just making the thing that comes out of you. Yeah. Obviously, the inspirations that we've had in music have built up, the music that we play and the music that we also like to listen to and go see live. And so we just kind of lean on that experience and the music that is already kind of like cooking inside our brains and just let that come out without too many filters just to see what that makes. And with synthesizers and drums, it kind of makes a similar sound from song to song. Yeah. But we really try to just make it be the music that we would make naturally, organically. And I think that is the thing that has made us connect so much with this music that we're making and with the band that we're in without feeling like, oh, well, let's try a different project someday. Or because this is just making what we would make. Gotcha. I love that. That's rad. And it has just continued to make sense. Yeah. With that. And actually, that segues well into this next question. We're going to talk about your music in a moment, but I am curious. Y'all been married together for a while. You've been in a band for a while. Yeah. You've been making music in all of its capacities. How do you deal with creative differences?
there's a couch and somebody sleeps on it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, not.
I thought that was the kind you like sit down and you're like, look, we need to talk about the song.
No, I mean, that's the thing is like we're like dumb for each other. We love each other so much. Like we just like hang out all the time, and we're besties. And so it's just, I think the reason why we ever started playing music together and eventually got together and got married was because we just liked doing everything together. We just liked being together. And so that makes it easier, right? You know, like we just really like each other and we respect each other. And so, you know, we're able to, like, sometimes, like, okay, we just put out a song, Mind's Eye. And when I first wrote it, Chris was like, I don't know if I get it, you know? And I was like, no, that's totally fair. But like, here are some of the songs that like are in my mind. And then, you know, you kind of listen to that and you came back and you're like, am I drumming too much? I'm like, no, drum more, you know? and so we kind of got there. It was not like an easy, like just immediate, you know, like synchronicity on that song.
Sometimes they're, you know, lightning in a bottle. They just happen so fast. And some take some time. Maybe you even like shelve it and come back to it.
Yeah.
But I think that you like a good brainstorming session where people say there's no bad ideas. I think that we've gotten to the place where we respect each other's musical abilities and musical minds so much that I want to hear everything that Jen has to say and bring to the table with a song and respect that as something different than what I would bring. And I know that I have my own skill in music or my own ideas that hold their own space that I can bring to a song. And so in that sense, if I can look at Jen's ideas as amazing because they're not mine, because I would never think exactly the same way that she would, then that just means that we can build off of both of our ideas together and make something that wouldn't exist otherwise.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I guess your instruments are so separated in the realm they exist in too, that really it kind of just has to be collaborative for it to work.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There are things that sometimes like Chris will play on a new song and I'll just be shocked. I'll be like, that's so perfect. I wouldn't have ever, you know. So, and I think a big thing just like in you know, our connection just as people is vulnerability. Like just from early on, we just felt like we could be really honest and we felt like we could just really be ourselves. And that has just bled into the music, which I think is just it's a really nice setup. I know that there's, you know, we're really lucky in that. Like, and you talked about like rehearsal time, like we can just rehearse at lunch, you know, when we
got our music
show.
In the house.
It's all built in. It's nice.
Gotcha. Well, thank you all for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
All right, now let's go ahead and let's talk about your music a little bit.
Okay.
So I jumped onto a ye old Spotify, and you guys have got music going all the way back to 2017, and a good amount of it too. A good amount of singles, a good amount of EPs. It's all kind of balanced really well. And the earliest tracks weren't really that synthy. That was kind of the interesting thing. It was kind of cool to see like more of the indie approach, but like a year later, that kind of that changed very much with the She's Got It EP.
Yeah.
That was when it started. Also, do you play guitar on that?
No, that is a great friend of ours, Chandler Stretz, that is on that record. And the earliest iteration of Camp Crush had, I think, 6 players.
Oh, okay. So it is narrowed down a little bit. Gotcha.
Yeah.
You'll hear in some of our early tracks, there's some horns.
It's a trombone player.
We had our friend Brian played trombone with us live sometimes.
Oh, okay.
But knowing that we came kind of from a folksier band.
Okay, so you were just used to it.
To make a little bit more sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, either way.
Yeah.
That project was really cool, and the progression from then there on, it just kept getting better and better. This is kind of this is the music that I kind of settle in as well. So like I really got to lean into the listening experience a lot. And I mean there's powerful synths, huge drums. It's very, very commanding and emotional vocals. It definitely has that like 80s vibe to it, but it doesn't feel like y'all were trying to imitate that sound. Right. Like there was definitely that influence, but the sounds didn't feel dated. They felt very modern. It felt very like well put together production wise. And I mean, for this kind of music, it's very easy to get into the weeds. You can go off in really odd directions, but y'all kept it super tasteful, very tight. And the whole discography, like I was waiting for that one track where it's going to be like, oh, okay, like I get it because I've been in it, but there isn't one. It's kind of a no skip discography,
that's
which
really
is really
sweet.
Cool. And I did check out your most recent track, Mind's Eye, which just came out in October of this year. And definitely one of my favorite tracks. Hands down. It starts off very simple but very full. It stays somewhat like melodic, somewhat commanding. It's somehow dancey and moody at the same time. Yes. And then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But the chillest part was the chorus. Like that was the part where you're like, wait, this still feels big.
Yeah.
But like we're cruising for a moment. And then it goes all the way up into that bridge where it just gets huge. And this is going to be my weird take of the week. There's this tail end of the bridge where right before it like breaks down, where it almost has like a System of a Down vibe.
Totally.
Wow.
Totally.
No, tiny niche.
Yeah.
I was like, why is this in my head? But it's there. So I wrote it. I had to say it.
Wow, yeah.
Love it.
But the way it drops out and then comes back to the chorus just makes the chorus feel huge. So it's just, I rarely say things like this, but I'm saying it here. That might be one of my favorite tracks that I've gotten to review on the show this year. So
thank you.
I really enjoyed it, you guys. It's really cool.
Wow, thank you.
We were so excited to get that song out because we also love it. I'm so happy with how it turned out.
And that song is really special because it was one that, working with George Elbrecht, who is our new producer, his vibe, he definitely has like some darker, moodier, and he's a synth guy as well. So it's like darker, moodier synth stuff that he does. And he, that was a huge collaboration for us where we were like, what if we went even a little bit darker? What if we went even a little bit more like synthy EDM, goth vibes, and we kept pushing the limits, and then it just like turned into like one of like, I think our favorite songs that we've.
Yeah. And kind of along with what you were saying too about our discography, how it's kind of shaped and changed along the way throughout the years. That's been us growing and understanding a little bit more about the type of music that we want to make. But also along the way, finding and working with different producers that have helped meet our vision and understood our vision and could help us work together. Because in the songwriting process where we're ping-ponging, bouncing back and forth with ideas, we get to a point where we need that producer to help us translate all of that in the recorded material, make it pop, give it that extra juice to do its thing. And producers have played a big role in that along the way as well. And
I think especially for the duo setting, the mixture of the synthesizers and the live instruments, there's a good space for a third person to be the ears on, to really be like, hey, I hear what you guys are doing. These are the moments that need to flourish on a one time at a time listen type experience to really kind of bring it out. And I mean, I imagine, y'all put together a quality enough experience live that they could probably figure out how to translate that well.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's at least been to one show, so he probably knows what y'all are doing.
Right.
But there's definitely space for that. Also, just in music in general. But we're going to get so far into it if I open up that can now. I am curious, while we're on the topic of your songs, though, what are some of each of your favorite ones to perform?
Oh, that's such a good question. I do love playing Mind's Eye because when I wrote it, my goal was I wanted to write a synth like jam that was 2 bass lines, and that was the melodic component. And so that whole song is just 2 bass lines with like auxiliary synth happening.
Oh, cool.
And drums. And so it's really fun playing live because it's just like,
yeah, it's just a lot of low end.
Oh yeah. Which is really fun. So I love playing that, and it's really fun to sing. We have a song called Fireflies that is just a song that everybody in the room is going to start dancing to. And like Portland, we don't love to dance as a city. Collectively, we like to like kind of be still. We like nod our head, it's like very Pacific Northwest. And so when we play Fireflies, like you can just see that like people just start moving, and it adds a lot of energy.
Yeah, I would echo Mind's Eye for sure. When I was writing the drum part for that song, I was like, I want it to be really moving and energetic. And so I kind of created this rolling tom fill beat that is just really fun to do. And I just feel cool doing it. So it's just like that. It's
definitely got a move your body element to it through the whole song without like that overtone.
Yeah. I'm just trying to make myself look cool in everything I do. But I also really like playing which is going to be our next single that we're putting out, the song Electric Suns, because it's like fast driving, just like big drum song. It's all just the most selfish answer from me.
That's okay. It's supposed to be your favorite experience during the playing experience. Yeah. So I dig that. I dig that. Well, thank you for sharing.
The big energy moments are super fun on the drums. For sure.
Yeah. All right. Now, before we move into the next part, this next question is going to be an individual answer, and it's probably the densest question we have in the interview.
Okay.
But, we've talked about the experience of music, the actions, the reactions. But on an individual level, when it's just you and music, one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think that because I've been doing music in one way or another since for my memory, I've tried several times to quit over my life, because it can be hard. You like play a show that's not good, or you're like, I haven't written a good new song and I'm walking away. I'm going to pick up pottery or something. And then I get really weird. I like become a really weird version of myself where I'm like, wow, I just really don't recognize who I am without music. So at this point, it's sort of like the other half of my brain. It's sort of the thing that keeps me centered in myself. I think it's sort of this other language in my head. And so as tough as this industry can be, and it is, vulnerable as it can feel, at the end of the day, like it is who I am. So, otherwise I'll be a weird Jen and not like a pseudo Jen from like a parallel universe or something.
That's definitely true for me as well. The centering is very true, that you can kind of feel like a weird version of yourself if you're not connecting to that creative nature. Yeah. I think for me, there's that, but also this idea that I get to be the person that I dreamed I would be when I was young. I always wanted to be in like a touring rock band, playing big shows, in cool venues. And we've got to do many of those things. And every time we play a show, I don't take it for granted. I think back and say, this is everything I dreamed of when I was young. And maybe I'm not playing Madison Square Garden right now.
Yeah, I was going to say that could happen.
Not yet. But whether, that's a in the realm of possibility, sure, whatever. But mostly it's just that I'm doing it right now. I'm getting to lead and live that life that I dreamed of. And the bonus thing that I didn't realize when I was young that I now realize is that through being that creative person that I dreamed of being, I have met and built my entire community.
Yeah.
All of my closest friends and all of the people that I connect with the most and the people that I love being around, especially when I go out and to someone else's show. When I just engage with the Portland music community, there's always people there willing to engage. There's always people that are also creating, making amazing things that through being a musician myself, we have that shared experience and that shared nature that is almost just, that breaks the ice immediately.
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
Those are two really good answers. Thank you both for sharing. Oh man, I don't have a lot to follow up on that. Those are very well put together. I really appreciate you guys sharing that.
Yeah,
that was awesome. All right, now we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well.
I love it.
Okay.
But this first one is pretty straightforward. If the band could share a bill with any current act, the only requirement is they got to be active. They got to be doing stuff right now. Who would you want it to be?
Well, Blondie's back on tour,
There you go.
Legendary.
That would be amazing. You mentioned Chromeo. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
love them so much.
for sure. Romeo, if you're watching.
Chromeo.
Yes.
Call us.
Yes.
Ready.
I would love to just current inspiration. I would love to tour with Caroline Polachek because her music is so inspirational. And it's just like in the realm of pure creativity. And that just inspires me. I've seen her live a couple times now and I walk away. I'm just like, let's make music immediately.
You know who else I just love and would love to play with is Rebel Bucket. They're from New York and we've seen them like a bunch of times and they just have the most energetic shows, and they're such great songwriters, and they're very inspired. Like, I think we've taken some production. Our music is a little bit different. They're indie pop too, but we've taken some production cues from them, and I just, call us Rebel Pop. Like any of those people. Debbie, Harry, we're ready.
We're always
you
ready.
need, we're ready.
Anything.
That actually all sounds like it would be a great full lineup show anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Bloody can headline still. I think that's fine.
We're building a
She
festival.
deserves it. Yeah.
And then subsequently, who's a local act that you each are aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to? And I know this might be a tough one because y'all have been doing it for a minute.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, that I think that our second hobby outside, I mean, if you call music, Camp Crush a hobby, it's a huge passion. Yeah. But so our main hobby then is going to music. And so we do try to see as much local music as we can. And we've tried to meet a lot of local bands and connect with people. I think that one band that I really love what they do and haven't really had a chance to connect with is Federale. I think that their music is kind of that like Echo and the Bunnymen, like 80s goth new wave rock and roll sound that, but also with an incredible, modern take on that. I think everything they do is really cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. And this next band, they're actually like dear friends of ours, but the stars have never aligned for us to play a show together. They're called Small Million. And they also started out as sort of like guitar, auxiliary percussion, one-person synth singer, and now they have a 4-piece. But I think like they have just like one of the coolest sounds in town, and it just has never.
It's wild.
Never aligned.
It's wild that we've never played a show with Small Million because they are dear friends, and it would be such a great bill. So it'll happen.
It will happen. But yeah, we're really lucky. Like I'm like, oh well, I love Pure Bathing Culture, but we did get to share a bill with them one time. So it's just like we've been really lucky that we've gotten to jump in on a lot of.
We just got to play a show with Quasi, Portland legends, and that was amazing. So, yeah, like you said, doing this for a while and trying to be as engaged and respectful of the scene itself, we've got the chance to meet so many amazing, inspirational people.
That's awesome.
But there's always more. There's always more.
Always.
Always.
And because we actually just like love the Portland music scene, like we love going to shows, being a part of shows. Even if we're not playing, I think it's just like opened a lot of doors.
Yeah, just being there.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, for this next one, gonna get a little weird. This is a fun one.
Okay.
All right.
If the band's music could be the soundtrack to any movie, what would you pick?
Dirty Dancing.
Okay.
Just because that's my favorite movie of all time. I think it'd be a really, really good fit for the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very much so.
I feel like that's the best answer. I don't even know if I have another one that's a better answer.
I might actually meet you in the middle on that one too. Yeah, that very much so. Very much so. All right, and then to wrap it up, if you could each add one abstract instrument into the band. So we're taking the regular ones off the table, and we're going to take saxophone off the table for this one.
Okay.
It's been too go-to an answer, and it's not really abstract.
It's just.
If you could add any abstract instrument, and either you could play it yourself or you could have somebody else play it, totally up to you, but what would you each add?
So I'm a huge Madonna fan. Grew up loving Madonna more than any other human being. Now she comes after you. I love you more. But
Great.
I love her a lot. And one thing that is in most Madonna songs is like a raucous bongo line in the background.
Yep.
Next time you listen to Madonna, all you'll hear are bongos. And so I feel like I could use the bongo. Yeah.
I think like French horn could be cool. Here and there. It's just like has such an interesting quality to the sound compared to other horns. That it's like kind of bassy, but also like atmospheric.
Yeah.
I think, and it's almost like synth-esque in that way. It's like its own analog synth.
You can just, it won't be as good.
It's not going to have quite the layers of all of your synths. But
no, I know
it's also an interesting looking instrument.
Oh, yeah.
Aesthetically.
Yeah, aesthetically.
That would go a long way.
Yeah, it adds a lot.
Hell yeah. Well, anybody watching who's thinking Christmas gifts for these two.
Bongo,
bongos and a French horn,
We got some instruments to learn. Yeah. I'm not saying I know French horn. I do not.
That would be such a funny if I played bongos and you played French horn for nothing else for one song.
Oh. Okay, now we'll leave that for another time. All right, now I did say we're wrapping it up, but I'm actually genuinely curious. I'm going to throw in one of the solo person hypothetical questions here. But if you could each get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
Oh, because like there's some of the greats, right? Like David Bowie put out one of like his best albums right before he passed. So then you're like, could he have topped it? I don't know. So maybe that's not my wish. What's that band from the UK that put out that one?
Noah and the Whale?
No, that they had that one album and we listened to it nonstop.
Oh, House of Hats.
House of Hats.
Oh my God, that's such a good answer.
And I'm sure they're out there somewhere. But you put out one record and we loved that record and we listened to it nonstop and then they broke up.
That's that band too that like we kind of like, if that was on vinyl, we would have had to get a new copy because we would have burnt through that.
Yeah.
But we listened to it together a lot. And then it's that band that you don't think about for like 3 years, and then you think about it again, and you're like, oh, which is the moment I'm having right now. Because that's such a good answer. House of Hats, because they haven't made music in a while.
Also Swell Season.
Swell Season.
2 records, and then they stopped.
Yeah. Luckily, some of the bands that we have loved throughout the years have recently put out new music. Depeche Mode and The Cure. Some other great artists that we've loved are still making music too, like Sondra Lerche and we also love like Arctic Monkeys and they're still making great music. Spoon they're
still doing it. So I don't know. I feel like there's the greats that you always wish you could get more of.
You could pick people that are still doing it. Like I said, that even if they came out with one yesterday.
Yeah.
Man, but I like that House of Hats answer because the album was it's not like synth music. It's not like what we make, but it's just very emotional and beautiful and well written. And I think it was probably like doomed from the beginning because I think it was maybe we break the mold, but it's like a couple band, I believe. And for whatever reason, those just do not always.
That's fair. Yeah, it's a tough dynamic when it's 50% decision on and off stage.
Yep.
Yeah, just ask Stevie Nicks. It's just so many stories.
All right. Now, with that being said, thank you guys for answering that. Like I said, I knew there were going to be fun answers, and now I'm very curious about House of Hats. I'm excited to check that out after.
Definitely.
But we are going to start wrapping this up. Okay. What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and June?
Well, we're putting out our first full-length record. So that's we're super excited, and our vinyls are on their way to us. So we're really stoked on that. We have a really big show happening on January 11th at Mississippi Studios.
Oh, exciting.
We are releasing Electric Suns, our new single, and a music video that we just filmed, and it's looking really cool. And so that's on January 11th. And then in April, we'll be doing our full record release at Mission Theater.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting. Well, when you guys put out the album, let me know like a few weeks ahead of time, and I'm going to have you come back and do a tuned in episode where it's just a full conversation about a new album when it comes out.
Cool.
Amazing.
That's the whole thing. So please keep me in mind. I would love to have you back for that. I am already excited for it.
Yay.
And then for this next one, go ahead and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find us anywhere you find music these days. Mostly we like to hang out on Instagram at Camp Crush. Nice and easy to remember. And we're posting on there reels and photos and all that goodness. But Apple Music, Spotify, whatever your streaming service of choice is.
We're everywhere.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
Oh my gosh. Well, just a huge shout out to George Elbrecht, who I really produced this new record and made it, helped it become what it is. We're super thankful to get to work with him.
Yeah. And to all our close friends that are musicians that have played shows with us, we wouldn't be here without other buddy bands like Deepest Darkest and Derby and
Deepest Darkest is playing our Mississippi studio show along with Samadams, which is just a killer bill.
Just our good friends that have chosen this musical lifestyle with us and are continuing to inspire us, onward towards more creativity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Now, with that being said, I've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Okay.
All right.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. One more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. With that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your guys' interpretation. However you want to answer this, go for it. But what is an album you each feel is more on the obscure side? It's a bit of a deep cut. It's one you think not a lot of people would know, other than House of Hats, because that is already a super awesome answer. But is one you think everybody should know?
I would say Sondra Lerke's Please is an album that people should go and listen to 3 times because you won't understand it till the end of the 3rd time. But then it's so good.
Great answer, Jen.
Stole it.
One album that I have listened to since I was in high school and I come back to often is Tower of Power Live.
Oh, yes.
Good. That's such a good
I just can't
answer.
ever get out listening to that album.
I got goosebumps just hearing that answer. That is a super
Live in San Francisco.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, y'all came with hits this whole episode. I just gotta say, and I want to leave you two with one. I rarely get to bring this out. But there is a group called Young and Sick.
Okay.
And I believe the album is called Brother. Don't quote me on that. It's Yellow. That's the best I've got. Name I'm blanking, but please check it out.
Okay.
I promise you're gonna love it.
I can't wait.
And not because it's like specifically a synthy album. But I promise you're going to love it just based off of the passion and the stuff that you've mentioned during this episode. So I'm leaving it here so when you watch it again, it's there for you guys at the time.
Exciting.
But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. This was so fun. Yeah.
And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Jen.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.